Welcome to Series 7 of the Lawyers Coach podcast. My name is Claire Rayson, and each episode of this podcast will feature myself and Oliver Hansard, both of us coaches and former lawyers trying to find out what makes lawyers tick. In this series, we will be hearing from various guests and experts to talk about the billable hour. And then, at the end of each episode, we will both be reflecting on what they said. The Lawyers Coach podcast is brought to you by Client Talk and Hansard Coaching. In this episode, Oliver speaks to Tracey Rodgers, who is a marketing and business development professional at Harneys. Oliver speaks to Tracy about non-billable time, and in particular, the time that professionals spend on business development, and thinks about how by perhaps relabelling it, firms can get more buy-in.
Welcome to the podcast, Tracy.
Thank you very much, Ollie. Lovely surprise to be asked.
And lovely to talk to you. I'm always fascinated how marketeers find their way into the legal profession. So could you just give us a bit of a flavour of your journey and how you came to be at Harneys?
So I guess if we're going back, I studied journalism at university back in Australia, and I became very disillusioned, as you do, as only a 19-year-old can be, about how journalism was owned by media barons, and you couldn't do investigating, you wouldn't really be out there doing the Clark Kent bit, like picking up all the clues and writing amazing stories. So I swapped to a business degree with a recession coming on as well, and then sort of fell into marketing through property. Property companies, came backpacking to London, picked up my career when I stayed, and got into property over here as well in the UK, more the corporate side. And it was very much like booking advertising. We had fax machines in those days. For the younger audience members, that's a machine that would send through pictures over the.
Thanks for reminding our younger audience. Brilliant, what a fax machine is. That'll go down. Brilliant.
Yeah, and so then it was all property, and then I moved into legal, which everyone thought that legal was the ultimate in BD. Like, these legal knows what they're doing in business development, compared to what property was. So it's aspirational. So I fell into law, but I've been doing like a lot of marketing events. Key client management was really exciting, because key client was about knowing your client, understanding your client, collecting all that information, telling a story, understanding their needs, so that you could then deliver the services, make sure you had the right people on the team, really evolve that relationship. So I'm quite interested in that. And then underlying that was all about what you need is somewhere to store that data, store that information. Then following that, went to a law firm. I was thinking I was actually going to be doing key client management, but it ended up being client relationship management and the system, which was slightly different. But I knew that this was
more data driven, perhaps, than relationship driven. Would that be right?
Yes, but it was also, at that point, it was about marketing. You needed a marketing list to send out communications, because e-marketing was the place to go, because everyone started sending out newsletters through email. And once again, for the younger audience, in the old days, you would print off a newsletter, you put it in an envelope, and you would post it out. I spent a good whack of time
keeping the postman busy back then, but not anymore.
And you'd get the bounce backs, which would be undelivered, and you'd go back into your your spreadsheet and you'd take them off. And so this was it was built for e-marketing and then event lists and what lawyers doing. And while I was at this law firm, we looked for a new CRM system, because we built in-house, because that's what you did. And a sales tool, Salesforce platform, had hit the legal market. And it was not, CRM was no longer just a place to put your contacts in nice fancy Rolodex. It was a place you could record meeting notes, or you could start to do target lists. You could really start to use the system as a sales tool. You could do pipeline in it, which was something which was a little bit scary. You could do it, you had a list of all your pitches that you were doing. You could do graphs, you could do dashboards. It was it was really exciting.
And were lawyers good at taking that on? Were they inspired by it, or were they intimidated by it?
Intimidated. I remember I was because I rolled out internationally, so I was going globally, and I was in an office in, I think it was a Finnish office, and I was terrified because all these very important lawyers, and I'm coming up and say, we've got this new tool, I'd like you to use it. It's really important. It's going to help you with your work, and they all turned up for training, and I would have to go and door knock on each of the partners' doors, and under the pretext of setting them up, try and give them introduction, because what I realized was partners can be quite intimidated themselves if you put them in a room with technology and the younger associates are whizzing through, not having to ask.
Oh, is that right? So you had to separate the groups out, perhaps?
Yeah, some of them felt more comfortable. So I sat with one who was I would have called him an older gentleman then, but now I would not. I would consider he was just a very distinguished peer. And I showed him, like, here's the financials for the client. Here's what they've been reading because they've been clicking on links in e-marketing. Yep. This is who we know. This is a relationship strength. We know who's been emailing them through Outlook. This is all we hold in the firm on this client. And it's at one click. And you just have to click on the tabs and it'll tell you. And he just looked at it and he sort of sat down and sat back and went, oh right, okay. I could just see him like take in this change, this fundamental change in how he was a partner, how he was a lawyer, how he would be doing law. And I think that's that comes in with all the technologies that hit the lawyers, where beforehand they would delegate to a PA and they would manage everything. All they had to do was do the legal work, charm the client, and do a few good lunches. But now technology was coming in to take over it. So one of
how to deal with it.
Yeah, like the partner.
And were you a friend or a foe then at that moment? Was it relief that that BD activity that got in the way of charging time would become simpler, or were you a threat in the way that you brought that to them?
He definitely came to the training the next day. Let's just say he wanted to know.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
I think it was just eye-opening to them that the technology had come to them, and that it wouldn't take a long time to do things. Things would be a lot quicker for them. And it is that speed. Lawyers want speed, and as you say, time is money. They bill in 6-minute increments. They send you an email, they record it. They have to do admin. And what was happening at the time was at Harneys I was talking to a very a partner she's awesome. Like she will do what she needs to do. She was billing, she was doing the admin, whatever was asked for her, she was doing. And she said, but it takes me like 30% of my time now is billing, or is admin, not out billing, but actually just managing all I have to do, because compliance is huge for lawyers. So I then stopped wanting to ask her to put her meeting notes into the CRM system, because if she's already spending 30% of her time on admin, she doesn't want to also be recording meeting notes, which would, what was a benefit to her when she's already losing
burdened by all that. So in that instance, hopefully you're a friend because you're understanding the context in which she was working, but hopefully the system is making her BD easier. I don't know, and therefore give them more time to do other things.
Well, what led to the idea that we had to like make it better for them. We had to be their friend. It was, we're not going to beat them up for not doing their meeting notes. We had to find a better way of capturing that information, which is passive, because other technology came out where you don't have to tell us who you know. We can see who you know through your email. There's a products that they tell us who you know. They've got the contact details. It cross-checks the data against LinkedIn. It brings the auto signature data.
Oh, amazing.
And they just, do you know this person? And they click a button and it syncs it into the CRM system. So we're all about saving the lawyers time, because we want to be their friend. We're here for the added value stuff that they can then go and do.
And would that mean that they were more likely to want to participate in non-billable activities and to do that BD because of the tools that you provided?
Yes. So they became we began working together. So one of the things we realized is when they record time, they have to write a description of that time.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're doing billable time, they will say at reviewed, documentation, pulled out key bullet points, whatever action, and then that would go in the bill, in the invoice.
Yep.
So a client can say, okay, I know that this lawyer has really done very well on my time. I'm getting good value. I know what I'm getting from my time. Well, we thought, well, they're also being asked to do their investment time, which is their BD time. So we
you actually call it investment time.
Yes, because it was called non-billable time or just, other time. And the lawyers are like, well, there's no value in it. But by calling it investment, we hoped that they would see it's an investment in the future, whether that's billing or whether it's business development or whether it's training, knowledge management. So we gave them, they were able to categorize their time. So beforehand, you'd look at, non-billable time, other time, and it would just be anything. They had to make up, you have to do a certain amount of hours per day. You've got to bill a certain amount of hours. And
Yep.
there's a minimum of 7.5 for billable time. And then you get an extra couple of hours for other stuff. So,
Yep.
But if you don't bill your 7.5 hours, you still have to, may only bill 5 hours. So there's 2 hours and they'll just put it under other. So by making them then classify how they were spending that other time, we know where their time is going, so we can see what that other time looks like, if that's the roundabout way. So we can see how much time they're spending billings, collecting, invoicing. Is that really high? Can we look at a better way of doing that? Can we
or
then
somebody else to do it? Yeah.
Outsource that? Could be a better system. Knowledge management. What type of lawyer are they? So for their investment time, what do they prefer to do? Because when are they better at knowledge management, adding to the bank of knowledge to benefit other lawyers?
Yeah.
Or are they better at BD? Are they a rainmaker? Are they spending, 2 days at a conference and then bringing in new clients to the firm? So then, and both lawyers have equal value, they're just needed for different things. So we could look at, the aim is, how do we develop this lawyer's career? How do we make this lawyer happy and content doing what they're best at, while letting the lawyers, and the other lawyers pick up the other bits. We had a nice balance. We can't all have rainmakers, but we all can't have people doing knowledge. But the firm needs a mix to be healthy.
So I love the philosophy. So everybody's doing or investing in themselves and or the firm through investment time, yet everyone is doing it in a different way that suits their personality or their suite of skills as a fee earner.
Yeah. So the aim is, what makes a happy lawyer? Let's
Wow.
work on their what benefits the firm and them. And as long as the firm's got a mix and there's a fair balance, then go off, write your articles, go be the knowledge engine, the library for the firm, and let the people who would rather die in writing an article and go out to a conference and talk about the firm and talk about what they should be doing in the marketplace and what changes are coming up, and doing great thought leadership. It's like some lawyers wouldn't want to go up on stage and present on a topic, where other lawyers just shine because they're so just they can talk, they can express their ideas in a way that's interesting to the audience.
So is there governance then across the business in terms of how do we get that balance, the right balance for the firm as a whole, or do you just kind of trust the system that you've got enough of a variety of people that you'll cover all those different things?
I think at the present it is trust for the BD, because we drilled down into the BD time even further, because we saw an opportunity here and we took it. So we said to the lawyers, well, instead of adding your meeting notes, sending them to your PA, writing them down again, if you already have to record time for that meeting and you already have to include a narrative of a certain number of characters, put your meeting notes that way. So we started collecting time, we started collecting referrals, whatever their 6-minute, half-hour slots. And that made the lawyers really happy, because they already had to do it. They only had to do it once. And then obviously we tied it to the KPIs as well. So, there's money in it for them as well. So, everyone won on the system, and the technology is what, enabled that and to made it so
because
clever.
you doubled up. You doubled up a file node into the CRM system as well.
Yeah. It was basically enter data once, we will use it many times. And then those meeting notes we circulate weekly. So there's a summary of everyone's meeting notes that go around to different offices, depending on your department or office, so that everyone can see what everyone else is doing. We did the same with the trips. This is just like we have wherever data is floating around the firm, we try and find a way to harvest it, put it into the system, match it with other data, and then report it back to them and say that they can use and digest and share.
And so do you think over, if you think of the beginning of that journey and where you've got to, are you able to describe the way in which you as the client intelligence team are perceived by the lawyers? Are you perceived as someone who, I don't know, I'm guessing a bit now, that is an enabler of freeing up more time for billing? I don't know. Is there a kind of a move from to somewhere new for you?
I would say from the original CRM, we were always put in the dark corner. We always had the, broom closet type joke about, CRM was, and, it still is, considered, got hierarchy, we're down there in cleaning out the coal cellar sort of thing,
Oh, I'm sure that's unfair.
So as I was saying, there was always that no one wanted to be in CRM. No one wants to do the data admin. But I think with the software taking away the admin, because you can harvest data from your Outlook or your email or, readership stats, it's all being, or your time, it's all being put in there, that once it's built once and it's all set up and going, it's that storytelling that is really, really exciting now. What's really important, where by part of it, all the data is falling into place, and data on its own is not much of a story, but it's piecing it together and going, okay, I can see that we have a number of lawyers globally are targeting a new market, but no one knows they're all targeting the same market because the data is split out. So it's like I can see that India is becoming a warm market, and I know it is for us because we're getting quote law firms from Indian companies in a Luxembourg office. I know that someone in a Hong Kong office has asked for market research on the India. There's law changes. So all these bits of information are coming together. And then it's up for our team to say, okay, this looks like it's a nice warm, this could be a potential. Let's give the information, joining the dots for the lawyers to go and say, okay, do we take this forward? A team.
And you can go there almost on an evidence basis that it is worth them putting their pen down in terms of chargeable time and investing investment time in a particular hot area, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like, and then they can record that time as investment time, put it down as, market research. And so when they get challenged saying, well, look, your utilization isn't hitting what it's supposed to be, they can say, well, because I've been adding value to the firm by doing this investment here, and this is what I think it's going to go to. So it's that proof of this is how I've been spending my time. One of our lawyers is he's absolutely lovely, and he is, but because the type of work he does a lot of people who like to chat. So he spends a lot of time talking to people, developing them a bit more elderly, that, thinking about their wills, and he develops them and he chats, holds their hand, and it may be months before he actually sees any work off the back of his investment time. But he can also refer them to other parts of the business. So a lot of his BD is referrals.
Right.
And beforehand, and he can now show that, to say, okay, look, I am not the big hitter. I'm not out bringing in the big deals, but I am nurturing the firm's base. I am, providing.
He's a harvester. Yeah, he's harvesting all the relationships within the organization.
Yeah. So
it's a really fascinating way to deal with, in a data-led, objective way to deal with people who otherwise might be really nervous about their chargeable hours, but to say, look, I've got a data-led way of investing in the firm's future.
Yeah, and it's like and it's important because they are judged. They are judged by hours, billable hours. That has always been what a lawyer's valued on. And it's been broadened out to say you are more than just someone who bills time. You are someone who brings in new business to the firm. You are someone who provides thought leadership out in the industry. We see how many podcasts you've done. We've seen how many articles you read. We see how many conferences you go to or you speak at, and it's that value. And then we can distill that down into points, and we add it as points.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all KPI points. And then we every 6 months we will send a report to the finance team saying these are the KPI point count for this lawyer. And it's really simple. This is.
Oh, I'd love to hear what that system is. Fascinating.
Oh, yeah. So we built it. Yeah. So if you go to a conference and you're a speaker, you get a point for being a speaker. You get a point for going to the conference.
Yeah.
If you do, let's just say you do a BD meeting a week, that's 50 meetings. That'd be 25 meetings for your 6-month quarterly. You write an article, that's a point. I did get challenged because one of the lawyers said, but my article was published in 5 articles, 5 publications.
I like the way you're thinking.
It's like, come on. No, it's only 1 because the way the system automates it, we only take the count from the website and we publish everything, but you only get your 1 point for your 1 article. But we know how much time you spent and we value that time as well. And then how many contacts have you brought into the firm? Then you topping up the pipeline, the top of the funnel. So, and BD meetings, and then also referrals. So you get a point for every referral you give, whether it's an internal referral, whether it's an outgoing referral. And then also, and this is a bit of a gray, which we haven't perfected. It has been the most challenging thing, but also opportunities. Like how many quotes have you sent out? So then it's a small percentage of the partner points, and then it goes into how much have you billed, what was your closing time, much money you got back, how quick was it, and all those the big ticket items. But
so it's in the mix. It's in the mix of all the different value points that add up to remuneration.
Yes, and that has been the key motivator for the lawyers. I won't lie. Saving them time is nice.
Yep.
Giving them something that they can get money off the back of, much more important to them.
No doubt.
And
it's just a partner level or in other places in business?
It is partner level.
Okay.
But if I'm talking to a senior associate, I say, look, we both know, you're trying for partner. Let me help you. Let me just capture everything you do. And then we've got a little dashboard that they can have a look at. And before they go into that partner meeting, to say,
as part of their pitch to become a partner, that they've got that data there.
Yeah, just even prove how good they are. So I had one senior associate going, I've got my meeting like in 2 weeks. What am I going to do? I was like, okay. So they hadn't been doing things correctly, but all their time was recorded. So we did a bit of a backfilled for him to make sure it was looking good. So a partner in crime, I think I am, is what it
sounds brilliant. Well, yeah, because you can evidence the effort that people are making in investing in the business. That's you will be a partner in crime, no doubt.
Yeah.
What's the future for your role and client intelligence? What are the other places that you can go to support lawyers in their business development activities?
The area that I'm really curious about is the pipeline. Is that sales pipeline? Because we've done it because we looked with our fiduciary business, our salespeople, they get this. If they're sending out a quote, they're logging an opportunity. They have their pipeline sorted. They want to know ratios. They want to know, what's coming down the pipeline. They're good. The lawyers is a different market. This is not what the culture of a law firm has been like. It's all been about what have you built, what have you brought in. It's about what have you written off. What time didn't we claim? This is about let's get the pipeline going. Partners don't like to say they've lost a pitch. So talking to colleagues, like mainly bid managers or heads of bids, getting information out of the lawyer, they will tell you when they've won. They're more hesitant to tell you when they've lost or that something's coming up and they could lose. So but there's such a huge varied way of, and there's lots of data points of how they will quote for work. It may be, just an email, or it may be a proper pitch, or it may be a document, but that data is sitting in the document. So the challenge is, how do we get access to the data and create pitches, or create a log of all the opportunities that are currently in play, and what is their value? And once we know what their value is, we can start working out, matching it up to matter opening. So how many have we won? But it has to be automated, and it can't be dependent on the lawyers, because there has to be a better way. So talking about what keeps me up at night, how do I crack that little nut? How do I make
that sounds like a kind of Salesforce sort of pipeline management approach. But I hear what you say in terms of the profession tends to look back in terms of billing, clients that we've had, write-offs that we've had to do, as opposed to what's the future? What do we think the likelihood is of X being one, Y being one? And I suppose it's a slight shift in mindset.
Yeah, and they're not salespeople. It's like there are some law firms that are now using the sales word, but previously there were the business advisors, the lawyers. These people aren't salespeople, but the products coming onto the market, like the Salesforces, the Sugars, the Microsoft Dynamics, these products have huge sales pipeline products within them that we should, I think, as law firms, do more of it. And one of the biggest issues at a conference talking the other week, where everyone had the same problem, it's getting the data into the systems. There's plenty of great software, but it's that culture, that behavior. What do we give back to the lawyers, for their time? Because if they are rewarded on how much they bill, then everything else before that moment is not of value. It's just, why capture it? Why put extra time in when I'm not going to get paid for it? So
so a kind of, could it be a points-based system to drop that pipeline information in? Could that be part of the solution?
There is an understanding that that it's important information. It's like, I was trying to work out something yesterday, and I penned an email to the lawyer and said, can you just clarify this, because it looks like it's a really important piece of information about some work, and they didn't get the work, and they'd given a reason why they didn't get the work. So she was like, easily giving me all the information I needed on what happened, because that's more valuable than winning the work. Because what do we need to change to win this big piece of work?
Next time around, yeah.
And they're keen to give it to you, but it's I think getting information out to lawyers, the training, the systems, working, while you're working out how to automate it, it can be quite even with the time collection, we changed rules 3 or 4 times, and there'll be people still referring back to that. Well, you said to me 2 years ago, Tracy, I was to do it this way. I said, well, it's changed since then. It's like, they rarely, my email is one of a couple of hundred they get a day. If they read an email from me, I feel internally grateful. It's like, I made it to the top of their 200 sort of thing. So yeah, so I think this skill is giving them something that is easy, is intuitive, so we're looking at like email readers, or creating we looked at taking the data from a quote, automating it. So if you raise a quote, it automatically creates a system. Like the sales products have that, like Salesforce and Sugar. You log an opportunity and it will spit you out a quote that you can then send off to your client. But that's not how lawyers work.
No, they might not like the format or the presentation of it. Yeah.
No, or it's just an email. They're in the there's someone with their phone and someone else quits. Oh, that's $4,000. I know what that is. Don't worry about it. So sending that off. So a lot of what they do is intuitive, and like herding cats. This is a very big cat herding exercise. And I don't know.
You're not the first person to say that on this podcast, I tell you.
So that's and also I think client listening, like listening to the client, and I know that's something that was very big at this conference, where someone has like an AI client intelligence tool, and I was like,
wow,
okay, I need to get some of that action, because that just sounds like, what does that even mean? Do you use ChatGPT to give you some client feedback? I don't know, but I think client feedback to sort of round that loop off. And I know there's so much value in client feedback, but that's something that I'm really interested in, learning more about, and being more, working out how we can get that automated, because it's quite a sensitive topic as well. Because if someone's confiding in, the person about the firm or an individual, how do you use that information?
But priceless when you get it right.
Yes.
If you can improve that client experience.
Yeah, and talking to a number of people in law firms about even our own example, just always slightly misses the mark. There was what was it, Bird and Bird, the colleague did an amazing client listening program, really insightful, but it was, it's time consuming. It was her life. She was able to write a chapter in a book on it, and it's just yes, I think client listening, the other ends of it. I have the BD element, I think pretty well, we're good there. Now it's the sales pipeline, and then, but the data all has to be joined up as well. So then we even get into master data management, and you don't want to go down that topic, not in a short podcast.
Well, look, maybe that's a really good place to stop. It's been fascinating, Tracy. Thanks ever so much for joining the pod and shining some light on how to get lawyers away from the billable hour and into BD. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for having me.
So that was Oliver speaking to Tracy. Oliver, thanks so much for speaking to Tracy and finishing off what has been a fantastic series. Yeah,
it's been great fun. So good to speak to a variety of characters in the industry and try and get under the skin of the billable hour.
And I'm, really looking forward to working with you on Series 8. And if anyone listening would like to take part in Series 8, then please do get in touch.
Yeah, I look forward to Series 8. Absolutely, Claire.
Lawyers Coach is brought to you by Client Talk and Hansard Coaching. If you're a lawyer and would like to take part in Lawyers Coach, please visit our website lawyercoach.co.uk for further details. And you can also join the conversation on our LinkedIn group Lawyers Coach. If there are any topics you'd like to hear us discuss, then just get in touch.